Guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Franchise Advisory Board, where we bring in experts across the industry to share actionable insights that can help you build a memorable and thriving brand. And I've got with me today Michael Moorhouse. If you haven't met him before, he's a pretty awesome guy. Like I've chatted with him a couple of times, but I'm grateful we got him today. He's the president of Mosquito Shield, which is America's proven leader in mosquito and tick control. They've been in business for a long time, since 2008. He's been, well, actually, I don't know how long they've been around. You've been with Mosquito Shield since 2008. How long has Mosquito Shield been around?
Yeah, so started in 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
24-year-old company. That's especially in that industry, that's old. Like you guys are the OGs probably, aren't you?
big time. Yeah,
Yeah, love that. And but you guys didn't start franchising until 2013. That's still, a 12-year run of franchising. Built it to
that's correct.
400 units or 400
Over
territories.
400 territories, right?
Man, yeah, good run. And 2022, they got acquired by the five-star franchising team. So you guys probably know who they are. And let me tell you just a little bit more about Michael. I want him to tell us more about them and the brand. Then we'll jump into our topic today, which is about how do we refocus franchise owner mindset into a growth mindset. It's a tricky topic, but Michael's got some great insights. But before we do that, Michael's also a dad. He's got five kids and loves boating and golfing. Those are kind of his happy places. Michael, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us about Mosquito Shield, and we'll jump right in.
Yeah, so surprisingly to me anyway, that this is my 17th season with Mosquito Shield. And I think the surprising part, Dave, thanks for having me on first and foremost. I think the
Yeah, of
surprising
course.
part for me is the excitement that I had heading into this year. It felt like the beginning, and it felt like it did not feel like 17 years of doing this. So I think that is an important point to make about the passion I have for the brand, obviously.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I started in 2008, and the founder was a franchisee in lawn care. So I started by helping him on his lawn care business. That was during the
Mhm.
crash in 08, 09, and
Yeah.
lawn care was suffering. But what we saw was this little mosquito business out of Massachusetts was growing during that period. And when we thought back, he launched it in 2001. We saw growth after 9/11. We saw growth through 08, 09. And then in 2011, he pulled me aside and said, great job on the lawn care. I'd like you to start considering growing this and turning it into a franchise. It took us about 18 months to get all that stuff together. Didn't really know what we were doing, and pulled it all together and launched Mosquito Shield Franchise Corp in 2013. And then
Hmm.
I just started going around hanging my shingle at franchise and business expos, and sort of fast forward to today. And, we went from zero to 100 plus owners and 400 plus territories.
Wow, that's insane. That's fast. That's good growth, man. One of the things that's interesting about the business, you said seasons, not years, right? Because it's like pest control or mosquito abatement or a lot of things. It's truly a seasonal business when people are in their yards. Uh, tell me a little bit about as we shift into the topic now, like uh, because of that, I think it kind of accentuates the mindset challenges that often exist in franchising. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the ways as you've been leading this brand or helping to lead the brand for so many years? You've experienced a lot of franchise owner ups and downs. What have you observed there? Like, how do they shift? How do they lose that fire and spark? Because the first 3 to 6 months, everybody's on fire, right? But
Yeah.
it fades and it changes and it ebbs and flows. Tell us what you've observed there.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges there, Dave. It's a great question, and it's an interesting topic because home services in general, a lot of them are subject to weather and then to seasonality, right? And we
Right.
certainly are no different. So people get into this business for that benefit, right? What they call the off season of when things slow down. And I think what we had to do as a company, and as a shift I drove about 18 months ago, was really getting rid of that off season mentality. So now we're peak and non-peak. So we don't talk about being off at all. Sure, things slow down, and it gives you time to recharge your batteries, but we really want owners being really mindful of what happens during, say
Hmm.
October to March. Like, you've got to recap how your season went, what worked and what didn't, where were the wins, what can we do better? And then, typically we have an owners convention every January, so you gear up for that. And then before
Hmm.
you know it, spring's here, and you alluded to it, but we call it 300 miles an hour. Once April hits,
Hmm.
and I think the misconception for a lot of people within, looking into this industry is that even further down south, there is still seasonality to it.
Oh yeah.
So it is just it, and that mindset shift can't change overnight, right? You can't take 100 owners and have them start thinking differently about how they're going to run their business.
Right. Yeah, that's well, and that and tell me about that. So obviously, you guys went through a process as you identified first. How did you realize this is a mindset issue? It's not a systems issue. It's not a tech issue. It's not a marketing issue. How did you realize this was truly a mindset issue you needed to tackle?
Yeah, I think coming out of 2023 and we started looking at our entire roster of owners and we looked at, who was really performing, who was underperforming and why. And we started digging into more of the why and realizing it was that group of owners that had that off-season mentality. And we realized that that's where we had to start, right? So in order to do that, we had to get our own team aligned and then we had to build our team out because to be able to drive a system-wide change like that, a real shift in narrative and mindset, you need the resources to be able to do it. So I mean, just Dave, in the last
Hmm.
12, well, I guess it's 14 months now, we've hired three full-time FBCs, franchise business coaches.
Oh wow.
We've hired a full-time launch coach. So we've got four coaches that are literally with owners, sometimes on a daily basis, definitely on a weekly basis, and that's where it was from within, right? So we aligned everybody internally on our team. We built our team out. We gave
Hmm.
them the tools and resources to be able to drive value for our owners. And then at the same time, it's a little bit of that tough love relationship in franchising, right? Because, I tell everybody the most important thing about Mosquito Shield's history is that we have one. We've been
Uh-huh.
doing this for 20 plus years, and that's like
Yeah.
really important. I want you, Dave, opening up in your market as an independent owner and operator, but I don't want it being day one for you. I want this to be year 23 for you, right? You should be embracing all that stuff. So a lot of
Yeah.
that type of stuff was really held inside our meeting rooms
Hmm.
and building it out internally with the team, get buy-in from them, get the belief from them, and then they could go to the owners and really have impact and hold them accountable for this shift. And it's definitely worked. We're seeing a huge owner adoption. So not just with the mentality of
Hmm.
getting rid of the off-season type of narrative and switching it to non-peak and but just even in adoption of programs and initiatives and things that we roll out, we've just got much better owner engagement and owner buy-in than we ever have.
And you said you kind of walked through a process. I want to go back. I want to have our team, those who are listening in, kind of cue in on this particular part of what you said. You said the first thing you had to do was get everyone aligned in the
Mhm.
headquarters office, and then you had to get everyone to buy in. Now, those two things might seem synonymous, right? But how do you see that as being different? How did you get everyone to kind of see it and understand, align around the fact that there was a mindset issue? But then how did you get them all to buy into the fact that the headquarters team that this was actually a real root cause of a lot of the issues you were dealing with?
Yeah, so it's the same, ultimately, Dave, it was the same information I needed them to bring to the owners, right? So if I wasn't able to give it to them, how are they going to bring that to the owners? And it goes
Hmm.
back to a thing one of the very first jobs I ever had on the wall was, tell me and I'll forget, show me I may remember, involve me, I'll understand. So without that part of it, right?
Hmm.
So tell me and I'm going to forget it. Show me, yeah, maybe, but involve me and then I'll own it. So we had to show our team what we were seeing, right? The data, the data drives decisions and the details are in the data. And if we could show that to them and they have that aha moment, then they can deliver that to the owners and they can say, hey, Dave, like here's the benefit that's going to come from you and I taking this journey together, right? So it was really
Yeah.
picking up with them. And that's the power and beauty of having a great team of FBCs. Like they really build
Yeah.
trust and credibility with the owners that are on their roster and that they're working with, and they become an incredibly valuable resource for them. So
Hmm.
that's how it was really just teaching and showing and guiding the FBCs to see the why, so then they could bring that to the owner base.
And it sounds like the why, a lot of this all came from good data. Like you guys use data to drive the why, use data to help the FBCs understand how could they see what the issue was, and then what was the impact of maybe this mindset challenge was you see cliffs and data issues. What were there any particular metrics you guys used that were clear indicators of this kind of mindset challenge, or what was it stood out in the data to you guys?
Well, I mean, for us, it's pretty straightforward. It's just customer acquisition. If a location's growing at the rate they should be and they're
Hmm.
gaining market share, it's really easy to measure. We don't have a ton of moving parts to this business.
Hmm.
And the other big piece, we have a model, Dave, that is really built on amazing results. So that leads to high retention rates. 85% of your customers come back every year.
Wow.
And then they refer at a really high rate. So that engine, those engines start to kick in, the retention rate engine, the
Hmm.
referral engine. So over time, at different thresholds of how long you've been in the business, you should be at certain numbers that we can track. And so it's an easy report card to look at an owner and say, hey, you're in your third season and
Hmm.
something's wrong, right? You're only at a 72% retention rate. Everyone else is at 85. So we can look at some of those things. And again, having 20 plus
Yeah.
years of this data drives decisions. I mean, it's as simple as
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. When you're talking about now normative data, right? So the beauty of franchising, here's where, well, not the only, this is one of the things about franchising that just makes it a standout in the business world. Do you know how much money people spend to try to get the normative data of their industry to find out how well are other mosquito abatement programs doing? How well are like there's not data out there, and if it is, it's like $25,000 a year to try to buy industry data.
Of
Where in
course.
franchising, you guys are sitting on it. You've got it, and you can use it to coach. And you were just talking about variances, right? So you guys have a program where you can look at the data. You can see variances of retention rate, renewal rates, customer acquisition rates, and you can now coach the franchise owners on normative data of their peers in region. How do you guys do that? Do you do it, time in system and regionalize it, or how do you guys make sure that that's a fair representation in the normalized data?
It's regionalized. And
Hmm.
then we use system-wide data around year zero, year one, two, and three. We have to have a year zero in this business because of the
Hmm.
seasonality. Like if someone buys right now, they might get open by August, and then they're only open for 2 months.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah. Hmm.
Right. So
Hmm.
that's sort of your year zero. You'll get until the next August of year zero, and then you're going into your first year. So we normalize it that way so it's a level playing
Yeah.
field. And then again, having the bandwidth of that many FBCs that we can now touch every owner much quicker than we ever could in
Hmm.
the past. So when we
Yeah.
start to see somebody going off the rails a little bit, we're
Hmm.
in a position as a company to dial them in and course correct far quicker than we ever were as a brand. And certainly from what I can tell, far quicker than what, a lot of brands that don't have the bench size that we do as far as team players. And
Hmm.
so that makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
I'll admit, like these are things that we've grown into. Like
Yeah.
3 years ago, we were not nearly as strong as we are now. Like I think we're we're class leading when it comes to training and support
Hmm.
and ongoing support.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, you're investing. So this is the challenge of, I think a lot of smaller brands face, which is they don't have the budget to go out and get these resources, but they really need them early in this phase, right? If you don't have enough people to do the coaching and you don't have FBCs that are trained on the data, um, they really can't go out there and make the impact that you guys have on your franchise owners as they're trying to operate and grow and scale. Um,
Yeah, I mean, the emerging space is tough, and I think back, and I think we were really fortunate because in the early days, I was really discerning on who came in as owners, and thankfully, uh, that though they're our stakeholders. The first 10
mhm.
owners in our franchise system, 7 out of the first 10 going back to 2013 are still in the system. 2 have exited, like
Wow.
really wonderful exits. So that's 9 out of the original 10 are still essentially operating locations. And they went through all the terrible growing pains and they helped us shape Mosquito Shield into what it is today. But emerging brands, yeah, like we didn't have the resources back then that we have now. And we're
Mhm.
blessed to be under the platform of 5 Star Franchising because one, the founders are just powerhouses in franchising, Scott Abbott, Chad Jones, and the shared service resources that they provide and
Mhm.
having other brands underneath the platform that I can pick up the phone and call any one of the other brand presidents at any point and just lean on them so that's another layer
Mhm.
that Mosquito Shield has since 2022 when we were acquired by 5 Star is I wouldn't have been able to build this team that I have. I just wouldn't have had the resources to do it.
Yeah, and you need resources. the brands that I know that have grown very quickly, even through the emerging phase, they raised capital or had cash on hand and they invested in those resources before they needed them. And there's so I feel like it's not like this is a secret. Like we talk about this a lot in the industry, and yet I want to just reemphasize it for everyone that as you're growing, it doesn't matter the stage you're in, you have to almost buy the resource before you need the resource, or else you'll never get to the point where you're helping your franchise owners hit a real stride. But how did you guys know? Like, so you added three people. That's a heavy investment in OpEx. How did you guys know that that's how many people you needed? Have you guys built kind of a formula around that, or kind of a
Well,
gut
I mean,
check?
there's some industry data around, 30 to 40 owners per FBC is sort of like
Hmm.
uh, and what we did was I sold the idea that we should go deeper.
Hmm.
And so we wanted to be about 20 owners per coach and not closer to 40. So I wanted to cut that number in half. I wanted to have more. Again, we'll go back to seasonality for a minute, Dave. Like we have a short amount of time to make a change and have impact for this year. And for a
Right.
lot of owners that are starting out, they're in year one or two. This year is everything to them,
Hmm.
right? So if they're
Yeah.
getting a call once every 6 weeks, because I only have two full-time FBCs and not four,
Not enough.
right? No. So that was really where uh and then the other thing was we realized we've got some very long-standing legacy owners that have different pain points and needs than somebody new. And
Yeah.
that's why we brought in the launch coach, right? The
Hmm.
launch coach is working exclusively with brand new owners for the first 12 months. They don't
Yep.
leave the nest for the first
Hmm.
12 months. And it's weekly, sometimes daily phone calls with our brand new owners. It's a completely different set of things that they need to know and that they're working on, right? And then
Yeah.
they mature out of that, and then they're on with their full-time FBC.
That's perfect. I've met with a couple of brand owners, no, or brand presidents or founders that have really got that figured out. And I'm glad you went there because it's something I wanted to ask you about. So you're stratifying your FBCs according to skill sets and according to like tenure and needs within the franchise owner journey, it sounds like. So a
Mhm.
launch coach, perfect. Do you have that same sort of specialization as people get into those, let's say they've renewed now, they've been here for 10 years. Those guys are looking at building empires or maybe even transitioning ownership for their next generation. How long have you guys tried to stratify the specialization across FBCs now that you've
Yeah,
got a
so
good
what we
team?
did was with those owners, which are really they're an exclusive group, right? They've
Hmm.
been they're stakeholders, they've grown amazing, really meaningful businesses.
Hmm.
Uh, so I off backstage we talked about like I brought in a VP of ops that has just been amazing and he's the one that's brought in these FBCs and he's got 20 years of coaching and he's taken that top quartile. So he's our VP of ops at the brand, but he's working exclusively with those top performers.
Hmm.
And then he's got, the two other FBCs and the launch coach underneath him. So
Hmm.
that's how we addressed because being around as long as we have been franchising since 2013 and still having some of our original owners here that are
Hmm.
doing, that they've got thousands of customers, we still want them to grow, right? And they still have a path
Yeah.
to, but they still need the same level, excuse me, of being held accountable as everybody else. In fact, in a lot of instances, Dave, they've gotten set in their ways.
Hmm.
And they
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I used to do that; it doesn't work anymore."
You're
So
right.
getting them to shift their mindset has takes somebody skilled like my VP that is handling them, and I think that's what's led to just an amazing year that we're having in 2025.
Hmm. That's a real challenge especially for aged franchise owners that have done well. They often kind of plateau and then they're content. Like finding contentment, and it's a challenge, right? Because we should strive for contentment in what we do, but in business, like it doesn't do a franchise owner any good if his numbers plateau and he backslides when he then says, "Hey, I want to plan for an exit." Now he's put himself in a pickle because he was content, but more complacent than content, right? And complacency really messes up a lot of franchise owners' success when it comes to exiting their
Well, it
franchise.
does. It could add as long as 2 or 3 years to that exit if you've done that, because you certainly want to get the most reward and the most ROI on the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into the business. And and just in the past 12 months, we've seen what that can be. We've had some of our oldest owners have these really
Hmm.
meaningful, life-changing exits. The
Right.
biggest, it is so rewarding to be a part of it and to see it happen, and to remember like the very first phone call I had with them 11 and 12 years ago, to the one congratulating them on walking off into the sunset. But if you
Hmm.
become complacent, and I think that's a much better word than content, you're right. I think if you become complacent, you're not going to get that exit that you deserve, because
Hmm.
anyone looking at that business is going to say, well, wait a minute, what's happened over the last couple of years? Like, this business is stagnant. Or so I think it's, again, the ability for us to be able to have these important conversations. Sometimes it's tough love that you're having with
Hmm.
owners, but to be able to have it backed by data, backed by experience, and set them on the right path is made all the difference.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, I think it comes down to trust, though. I mean, as we're like the franchise owners, they have to feel like you're somebody they can trust that's going to help them grow their business. And I think sometimes that's why in some systems, franchise owners that are a little more mature, sometimes they build kind of a natural distrust where they feel like I know better than you. What can you possibly add to value to me? How have you guys continued to kindle that sense of trust and partnership with your franchise owners, even as they become successful and might feel like, well, I don't necessarily need my franchisor's help anymore. They still do though. Like, how have you been able to do that? That's a tough balancing
It
act.
is, and I don't know that we were always great at that, and I don't think
Hmm.
any brand is. When you go through those growth
No.
curves,
Mm-mm.
we
No.
had a couple of periods of time with massive, like, historic frandev growth. So all of a sudden, everybody's just focused on all the new people coming in. You kind of forget about
The
your
whole timers, yeah.
yeah, but they're your producers, right? And you end up spending so much energy on the I wouldn't say non-producers, but the people that need your time,
Yep.
and they just keep doing their thing, and they almost, they almost don't need you in a lot of ways the way they did early on. But
Hmm.
it is, again, going back to being able to have these like accountability sessions with them on,
Yeah.
this is where we're at, this is where you're at, and how do we continue to grow your business, and what resources do you need? What can we bring in? I think a
Hmm.
lot of it is full transparency as well. Like, we operate, we run under EOS, we operate in an open,
Hmm.
honest environment, and it's asking them, like, what could we be doing better for you?
Hmm.
Because it's like, you've got to build that structure. When somebody goes from having, like, we could help owners that have 500 customers, like, with our eyes closed. You get up to
Hmm.
2,000 customers, and it's a whole different business. We have a location with over 4,000 customers. I
Wow.
was just in that office last week for a visit, and I mean, it's mind blowing, Dave.
That's
Like, it is
crazy.
mind blowing. They have whiteboards all over the place, and they got a whiteboard with the people that have to park down the street that week and walk 2 blocks because there's no room to put. They have 18 technicians going out every day. So it's like I was talking to an owner that has 400 customers, right? And this owner in Philadelphia is 10x. And I said, you get a flat tire today, they're getting 10. Like, it's literally that. Like, you have
Wow.
like, one of your techs doesn't show up today, 8 or 10 of theirs are calling it. Like, it's a whole different business. So how do you help them? You've got to know what their business is. You've got to be there. You got to go by the office. You've got to visit. You've got to really
Hmm.
understand, like, oh wow, yeah, they're having a whole different set of issues than what everybody else is having. And then you got to put systems in place. They're still paying you. They're still paying royalties. They're still paying brand fund. You got to still provide services to them.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
value, right? We talked about that earlier. Like, value is super important.
Yeah, it really comes down to the value, right? What is the value that you can bring as the franchisor? And it has to change. It has to change because you're right. That same value you brought 2, 3, 4 years ago when they were growing, they had 400 or 500 accounts. Totally different value proposition that you have to bring today. Which I mean, I love the accountability session concept you just brought up. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago with Fiona, with oh my goodness, Made Pro Canada. But they have accountability every year. They've got annual reviews where they dig into the performance, look at the numbers, and say, have you grown? Have you shrunk? How you doing? How's your P&L? Is your margin up? Is your margin down? They kind of do an annual review, and then they say, this is what your business is worth today because of the effort you put into it. And they so as they get further down the road, the brand these owners are actually more and more interested in having that meeting because nobody buys a franchise because they want to operate it forever. They buy it because they want to own a business so they can exit that business and then, like you said, right off into the sunset.
Yeah, so we do a weekly all hands call because I've got guys and gals all over the country. So the internal
Yeah.
team, home office, we call it. Every Monday we do an all hands call, and this being July, it's the halfway point of the year. And I reminded them that we did an offsite all team meeting last September. And my message was value and accountability for 2025. And I just kept
Mhm.
saying it week after week, month after month, every meeting, every L10, every quarterly planning. We have to drive value to our owners. And then anything we do, we need to be able to hold them and ourselves accountable.
Mhm.
So accountability on both parts, but driving value to them. And I really just on Monday on the all hands just congratulated the team because they delivered.
Mhm.
All year we've been driving value. All year we've been able to hold them and ourselves accountable, and we're seeing it in the results. I
Yeah.
celebrated with them the halfway point of the year and where we are as a company and the results we've seen, and just thank them for buying in, and thank them for providing that to our owner base, for bringing that value. And accountability is a payoff. Like holding people accountable is super important.
Mhm. Yeah. And well, holding yourself accountable too. You mentioned both sides of that. A lot
Of
of
course.
a lot of franchise brands, they are so focused on holding the franchisees accountable, they might be overlooking the fact they don't
That's
hold
definitely a
themselves.
two-way street. That's the look in the mirror thing, right? Like we
Yeah,
can't
it's
just
hard.
continue to ask and ask and ask. And we ask a lot of our owners, but I think at the same time we got to put ourselves in their shoes. We just for the first
Hmm.
time ever, quick story, did a what we call the national callback night. It was on Monday night at 6 o'clock, and we had it was open to anyone. So we had like 31 owners join in at 6 o'clock on Monday night. We had a couple owners speak to how they get on the phone and call leads and win backs um,
Oh, cool. Okay.
and everyone just went on mute. But then we did breakout rooms, and I challenged my team. I'm like, all right, which owner wants help calling? I'll take the bottom of the list. You take the top. And a couple people raised their hand. I'm like, all right, Joe, I'm coming into your room. And I went in one of my owners' rooms, and then I kind of put the pressure on my team. So a couple of my, people on my team started calling for our owners, and everyone was just calling together,
Hmm.
making sales that night. And it was an amazing event to watch online and see it happen of franchisor and franchisee literally coming together and
Yeah.
for a common cause.
Well, and what a better common cause than to do the one thing that everybody hates to do, which is outbound calling, right? Setting appointments.
It was a point we wanted to prove, right? Like
Yeah.
that there's dollars dialing for dollars, right? They're there. There's money waiting for you, and we built a leaderboard,
Hmm.
and you could tell by the body language. It'd be like, I think Dave's got one. Dave's got one. He's got one, and then Dave would be like, you know, it was great. It was great, and it got competitive. So we did a survey at the end, and we're holding another one on July 28th, next Monday night.
Man, that,
2 Mondays from now, we're holding another one.
that's a fantastic idea. Doing a callback. I know only one other brand that does something. Not that, but it's like, well, actually two when they launch, but they only do it on launch where they're like, all right, come in. I'm going to sit down next to you. Our team's going to make phone calls. We're going to set appointments for you. So when you start, the running in about 30 days, you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff lined up. What a message, though, right? It's not so the appointments are great. That's great. But what are you telling the franchise owner? Hey, the dirty work, the crappy stuff that you don't want to do, we don't want to do it either. We're doing it with you because this is so important. And then it eliminates that barrier that you often build of, well, that's your job. No, you guys take care of that. No, we'll do this stuff. You do the dirty. I mean, it gets rid of all of
Yeah,
it.
the whole tone of the night changed. It wasn't planned, it wasn't scripted, but it was like I've been doing this my whole life. I'll dial, right?
Hmm.
Give me a list. I'll start calling. And then I've got our launch coach is a younger guy, but super talented. And I was like, Kyle, put your money where your mouth is. Get on the phone, pick an owner. And
Yeah.
so it was great. We had a great time.
I asked you a little while ago, like, how are you establishing and building trust with your franchise owners so that they feel like they can trust you at the different stages? I think you've answered that with this great example of, well, we put our money where our mouth is. And you mentioned going out. How often does your team get out in the field? Is that something you can do during the busy season, or is it too busy for the owners for you guys to show up and be on site?
No, so it's really important for me that our team. So for me personally, I do a ton of travel. I'm still involved in frandev, so I'm at conferences all the time. And then with Five
Mhm.
Star, we're doing events and offsite meetings. And so anytime I travel, if it's in a city town or in close proximity to an owner,
Mhm.
I come in a night early or stay a night later and have dinner with
Yeah.
the owner or owners that are in that market. And it doesn't matter the size of that location and frankly, Dave, like the relationship I have with them, some of them are more strained than others, but it's like, it's important to me that we get outside of the business, break bread together and just like
Yeah.
find common ground and just reconnect. And then, so we try to do it. It's tough with time. It's tough with the seasonality of our business. It's tough on budgets. Like if you look at it
Yeah.
from just dollars and cents standpoint, you
Mhm.
can't be
Yeah.
just flying around and whining and dining people all the time, but it's really important that we make a point to do that.
Well, and you don't have to take them out to Fleming's every time you go out to dinner either, right? Like you guys can go to
No,
a good
yeah,
local place, right? And you can
yeah.
treat them, but also sometimes I think it would be I'd be nervous as a franchise owner if you fly into my town and you're like, let's go to Carver's or Fleming's. I'm gonna go spend $400 on a dinner for you and your wife. I'd be like, is that what you're using my franchise fees
I was
for?
just saying,
Because
who's
yeah,
paying for that?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm paying for this office. No, no. So yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
there's a way to do it. I mean, you don't have to do that, but you can spend time with them. It's about time. I heard once a very wise man once said, people spell love Time, right?
Oh, I
And
love
and
that. Yeah,
yeah.
I love
And,
that.
and you're a dad of 5 adult kids that still like you, right? I got 4 adult kids. Well, two are our babies are 17, so they're not quite there. They think they're there, but they're not there.
My youngest is
But
15 and she's still my best friend. I was just on FaceTime with before I got on with you. And so but yeah, so yeah, they hang around with me. But no, I love that. Time is love. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same with the kids as it is with the franchise owners. Like if you're
Well,
not
that's
giving
what
them
we
your
have.
time,
I mean, there is that connection or that correlation to, if you got 100 owners, you've got 100 more kids, right?
mhm,
It's just different personalities and you got to learn how to work with all of them. And they all need you at one point or another. It's like when they move into college for that first time, that's when they start
mhm.
talking to you again. Right? They need you to help them move.
Yeah. No, I've got my VP of franchise growth is helping an adult move right now from into the Carolinas. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's harder. Like being a dad of kids that are home and under the age of 18, like you're the boss. They kind of have to do what you have to say. But franchise owners are kind of like adult kids. And I find that I'm like, man, how do I influence you and coach you and help you? But yet you got to make your own decisions to grow. And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But
At the end of the day, I always make sure that I don't lose sight of the fact, and I do not let my team lose sight of the fact that these people, easy to work with, hardwood to work with, favorable personalities, difficult personalities, they made a huge investment in us.
yeah.
Right. So whatever comes of that, like that, we can't ever lose sight of the fact that we were their decision. Whatever journey
Mhm.
they took, however many options they looked at, if any, some look at a bunch, some just land on one. They picked us, right? And
Yeah.
we own that, and we owe
Yeah.
the responsibility to drive them value and hold them accountable and be there for them.
Yeah. You're spot on. I mean, it's like you're in a team meeting with me. Like we would be on the supplier side. Somebody invests in our solutions. Like we owe it to them to make sure
That's
we do everything
huge.
possible. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's it's how
huge.
you truly partner with people, right? You have to. But love that you're saying that. Tell me about results. Let's shift gears. So such great insight. I really appreciate all that you've shared so far, Michael. But now that you focused on the mindset shift, you invested in resources. You guys have done some really cool out of the box thinking, like these callback nights. What has the result been with you guys focusing on value and accountability for the last almost 12 months now? What have the results been like this season?
Yeah, so 2024 was our best year ever. We're currently 12% up over those numbers and climbing. So we are just week over week on new customer acquisition, which is what we measure, like how many new
Mm-hmm.
customers are you bringing in as an owner?
Yeah,
We're 15 out of 17 weeks up. There was just those two at the end of heading into Memorial Day, the last 2 weeks of May, super cold and wet around the country.
yeah,
Weather impacts our business big time, but I think it's like going back to the second week of March until last week or through last week. Other than those two in May, we have been up
wow,
week over week system wide. So the owners started seeing that traction in early April, and they're like, "Oh, like these calls are helping," and so if I'm calling you, I'm like, Dave, did you get out 300 yard signs? No. Well, we have our call next week. I expect that when you're only going to want to say no to your coach a couple of times. Then you're going to be like, shit, I got to get these signs out, right?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
he's asking me, he's telling me, and I see that around, like, I see on these town halls that like it's working. I better start doing it. And like, Dave, did you join the two chambers we talked about? Like stuff like that, right? So the owners started seeing the payoff of it. And then
Yeah.
they're like, give me more, tell me more. What else can I do? And then that just feeds more adoption with
Hmm.
programs we're putting out. Our the audience or attendance that we've had on our monthly town halls is we've got 70, sometimes 75, 80% of our owners are joining the monthly town hall. A year ago, we were half that. Like
Wow.
great town halls and delivering great info, but we just have such, when you start having growth and you're having success, it just fuels all these positive things, and owners don't, it's that fear of missing out, right? They don't want to, what's going to be on the next town hall? What new things are there going to be? I don't want to,
Want to
I don't
miss
want to
it.
miss out on that. And that just makes, that starts to make this fun, right? Like I know like industries that are flat right now, and so to be up at all is great. To be up double digits is even better. But it's also more than that for me, Dave. It's the excitement that we're seeing in the owner base,
Yeah.
and the engagement that they're having. And we're seeing it in really improved FBR results and just stuff like that, like stuff you can actually measure and you can see year over year on the charts of like, wow, massive growth in these areas.
Mhm.
It's been really rewarding.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That makes you, you mentioned early on, you've been doing this 17 years and you wake up excited still. Like this year, you were excited about this year, this season. Like this is why you're investing in the right places and you're seeing the results. And these are people, I mean, you've been involved in this brand for so long now, since the beginning of franchising. Like you know every single one of these people. And
Mhm.
like you said, they bet on you. They gave you their trust and their money and they wanted a result. And to see that you guys are investing so much to help make sure that you deliver on that, you deserve every kudos and accolade you're getting and every success. I'm really proud of what you guys have done. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Michael, if somebody, let's say somebody wanted to reach out to you and say, okay, I'm struggling. I'd love to pick your brain. What's the best way for someone to find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, so it's literally my favorite thing to do, whether it's this brand or any other brand or just thinking about getting into ownership. I also love working with emerging franchisors because I learned so much the hard way
Mm,
that I've been able to talk with newer, younger brands. And so two things I love to do is helping emerging franchisors, and then I love encouraging people to get into business ownership. So
yeah.
literally Michael, Michael at moshield.com is my email. Email me directly. I'm on LinkedIn. Great way to connect on there as well. But yes, I'd love to. I would welcome any say any email outreach, and be happy to engage with somebody.
Yeah. Well, that's a generous offer. Thanks for that. But also thanks for sharing so many insights today. And again, it's really awesome to hear you break down the way you guys thought about the business, working on mindsets, and then implementing a plan that actually helped focus the owners on shifting their mindset from that off season into a peak and non-peak season mentality. Let's work on the business when we got time to take a breath, and rather than go take a bunch of time off. It's just you guys have built something cool, and a lot of brands I
Awesome.
think can learn from this.
Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Michael. I appreciate it.
Dave, thank you so much.
Of course.